Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel outside the target demographic. In a previous video, we linseed oiled the black trim. Today we are going to be washing and waxing the Subaru before winter. So let's get started. As I said in a prior video, we linseed oiled the black trim, which still looks fantastic. My concern is getting this ready for winter. So we have salt here in Ohio. We are in the Rust Belt, so even if we don't have salt, we are in the Rust Belt. So the concern now is next week they are calling for 3 days of snow. Now that's probably 3 days where the conditions are good enough for snow, but that's good enough for me. So we are going to go ahead and do a quick wash and wax of the Subaru Forester. It's quite simple. We only need a few things here. Bucket for water, a rag, soap. We'll be using, I think it's 1 tablespoon per 3 gallons, so very small amount. And then new to me, we're going to try and not destroy the paint. I tested it on the wife's car ahead of time. Would recommend that testing procedure. And we're going to use some Carvana turtle wax to wax it up and get it ready for the salt and all. So let's go ahead and do it. On the way back from turning on the hose, you can see we got some rain today, which is fantastic. Rainy days are the best day to wash your car because the rain has already broken up any of the bird poop and mud, bug impacts, all that stuff. So you're already working with a little bit softer stuffs. So before we start mixing the soap and water, we're going to pre-soak everything. Let it start working a little bit before we start lathering and slathering. So as I said, pre-soak the car. Let it start breaking stuff down. The longer it sits while you are sudsing up the soap, the better. And let's go ahead and do the bucket. I'm going to do a second rinse. The first pre-soak got some of the stuff broken up, some of the stuff moving. The more action you can do with the water, the less abrasive you're going to be with a rag and with the turtle wax, especially when it's on a battery powered drill. There are some tricks with that I'll be showing you, but we're going to do a second pre-soak. It's cheap, doesn't cost you anything, especially when you're on well water. Run it all real good, and we'll start adding the soap. So the same as doing your windshield, we are going to start at the top and work our way down. We're going to gravity assist us on this. I find standing on the tires should give you plenty of reach to get topside. If not, you can get a step ladder or whatever you need, but we're going to start at the top and work our way down. Someone's having more fun than I am. I don't get to shoot anymore. I have 2 kids. Anyways, as you're working your way down, keep in mind to get into the places that you don't necessarily see. And that's going to include your gas door, your gas hatch to your gas tank, your refill. In addition to the inside, well, if it weren't locked, inside of the wheel wells. You do have a little bit of water that gets up there, which is fine. It does have drain ports and all, but that water here very shortly is going to have salt. It's going to be brine. So you want to clean it up, give it its best chance. In addition to also, we're going to be waxing that so that any brine that does get in there, someone's having a lot more fun than me. Jealous. Wax the inside of your door jambs, and that's going to prevent rusting as well. I did it a couple months ago, but behind your mud flaps, you can see they wiggle quite a bit. These are aftermarket, I believe. Water can and will get in there, and as you saw, that plastic can and will vibrate and buzz quite a bit. So You may want to consider taking a screwdriver and removing that, and also hitting it with some white lithium grease, and that is hydrophobic and will prevent water from staying in there, protect your paint, all that stuff. So go ahead and consider not only what you will be looking at, but what actually needs cleaned and what actually needs protected. Also, we're gonna leave the joke alone, but here's the punchline. You never want to go in dry, so keep getting your rag wet. The wetter it is, the more likely it is to soak into individual cracks. If you can't mechanically get in there and clean in between that seam, the more water you have, the more soap you have, the better off you will be. Rewashing it is fine, just as we rinsed it a number of times. Washing it a couple of times is also good. And hello, Bigger. Additionally, make sure you get all of your lights and the things that need cleaned, even though they may not look pretty. Here where the windshield wiper blade hits, as you go through mud and sand and all, and the water helps it accumulate, you're going to get a very coarse sandpapery edge where it accumulates and dries. So go ahead and hit that really good. Also, take the time, wipe down your windshield wiper blades, both sides, the side that actually does something and the side that looks pretty. So you can see here, even though I'm starting at the top, fold the rag over your fingers like that, and you can get up in your rain guard without slicing your finger open. Ask me how I've learned that trick. But you'll notice as I'm doing this window, the oversaturation with water and soap is working its way down and removing particles of sand, any rocks and stuff, bug remains that are still rather hard and sharp because you're about to abrade them into the surface. So you want to go nice and thick with the amount of water you're using, very light touches. The thickness of the rag will contort and reform itself to these individual shapes and cracks and creases and all. So you're not trying to polish it, you're not trying to sandpaper it, you're just trying to apply the solution into place and gently get rid of some of the surface stuffs. I would recommend, as you've seen, doing it a couple times. Each time you could get a little bit more aggressive, maybe is the phrase, less cautious. I would start doing left right because, as I've said, as you go left right, you're going to have water running down the door, and that's going to help remove any debris that's in place. Going up and down, you're more likely to, especially on the downstroke, pick up dirt and sand and rocks and debris and salt and all that and scratch it up the door, whereas going left right, it's more likely to wash it away. But keep at it. Even if hypothetically, but also in reality, the sun is very much against you. You're here, you've taken the time, you have the supplies. Make sure you do it right. Don't take any shortcuts. Don't try and, well, I'll only do it for 15 minutes. Takes as long as it takes. Be very thorough, because anything you wax in could abrade the paint and or be locked into place because, well, we're waxing stuff in. So you're adding a very weak clear coating over the clear coat, and any debris, bug guts, what have you, that you failed to remove during the washing portion is going to be sealed in, and it's going to have 6 more, 8 more, 10 more, however long it takes you in between wash and waxes to chemically or physically work on your paint. That is something you do not want. Still having more fun than me, but you guys are stuck with me. So everything has been washed, kind of sort of soaking. It's a double-edged sword. You don't really want anything drying, but the longer the soap sits, the more it can break down stuff. So I would say I started here, worked around the car. So at this point, it's been probably what, 5-10 minutes, right? Going all the way around. So I'm going to reverse the process. I'm going to start at the, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start at this door and go around, and then I'm going to hit the roof and go around again. And that's going to give me my double rinse. That's going to make sure all the soap is off. And it really doesn't matter because, hi Bagheera, I'm going to be going back around and re-soaping it again because it turns out I made too much water. So let's go ahead and rinse and repeat. All right, so first rinse looks great. I feel like I can see more of the reflections and all a little better. Hello, Bagheera. I did pop the hood, the gas tank, and again, if you just wipe your door jambs, you're less likely to start developing rust. It's usually where vehicles start rotting out is around the wheel well. Again, we'll be going in here. You can see the only spot of rust I see so far is right there. So the weather seal is going to do what it can, but go ahead and wipe it down. You're here anyways. I wouldn't, I would just use the rag, right, and wipe it down. Spraying it, I would spray another rag, clearly. Also, it probably goes without saying, make sure your windows are all the way up before you do all this. All right, let's go ahead and do round two. All suzzed up. You could be a little faster with the second one because you already did it. But be very generous with the amount of water you use, and let's rinse it. 2 washes. Now for the dry. Use micro soft cloths, whatever. I'm using beach towels. They have larger fingers, and again, if you layer up the towels, it is less likely to abrade, although at this point you should have removed all the foreign materials. But be you know, you're not sandpapering, you're not polishing, you're soaking. So let's go ahead and dry it up, and then we can wax it. All dried up. At this point, I use 2 towels, one to get up the majority, the 80%, and then the second one to get the remaining 20. Let's go ahead, spin up the drill, and get some wax applied. Had to do all the waxing in the dark. Luckily, you'll have seen in another video, I've made a small magnetized work light, and all I did was connect it to the car, shining that way, and then I would be over here looking towards the light, and I could see where I did, and more importantly, where I did not do the wax. But everything is beating up. Very nice. I also did the front and rear windshields and the headlights, so that should help prevent frost and ice and snow from accumulating on it. Another thing I did is I waxed, hello Anar, the front and rear windshield as well as the front and rear lights. That's going to help prevent frost and snow and ice from accumulating on my control lights, as well as made sure that they were clean and ready for the winter. So I'm going to roll in some footage of the technique of using the drill attachment pad for waxing. Usually a hand wax, you skip a lot of opportunity to do a lot of damage if you do it by hand, but time is of the essence, and I had already purchased that kit. So gave it a try for the first time, and I would say the results turned out pretty well. You can see the water from the rain last night has beat it up quite nicely. So let me roll in that technique right now. All right, so here we are back at the car. I will say about 2 days after I started this video, you'll realize this is a intercut due to the magic of editing. We ended up getting snow on Halloween night when the kids were out in it. So I definitely got this done in time. Hopefully you guys will as well. But let's go through a couple of things. So I ended up using this time. This is a attachment that you can add to any drill that you have. It comes with 3 of these replaceable pads. I think it was like $15 on Amazon. So my first time using this, absolutely best to do it by hand. I end up using the turtle wax, so it's very taxing, and as I mentioned, it's the end of October and we don't really have a lot of sunlight up here, so this was a faster means that I was able to do even in the dark. So I attached a work light onto the side of the car. I worked from the far end coming towards it and used the reflection of the light as a guide for where I did and didn't hit. But let's go ahead with a couple of things. The biggest concern with using a powered tool is it's going to provide more energy than you could do by hand, right? That's why we use power tools. The problem becomes if you have any amount of debris, a rock, a leaf, a twig, a stick, a grain of sand, a grain of salt, we are coming into winter. If you have a drill that's spinning and you push it into your paint, you're going to do some serious damage and you won't know about it until you've completed your entire car. So here are some tips. Number 1, anything the drill does is going to be faster or at least easier than doing it by hand. So first thing, let's restrict the speed. Most drills will have a speed setting up top. We have 1 and we have 2. And you'll notice 2 is so fast it actually makes the tool break free of being threaded on. So with all that in mind, we do not want 2. We want our number 1 setting. The second tip is just because your drill can go full speed doesn't mean you have to. So even that right there is going to be about the same speed as you could do by hand, right? So it will give the safety of not burning through your paint, but it'll be easier than doing it by hand just by doing that. And you have a little bit of flex before you get to your full speed. So if you see yourself getting too fast, just go ahead and let off a little bit. The third tip is we're going to limit the torque. So you'll notice we have a couple settings here. If you rotate it down to 1, it's going to be the lowest amount of torque versus setting it to the drill position is going to be the highest amount of torque. If I put this directly against my hand and I'm crushing it in, it's actually heating up my hand. And my hand cannot stop the drill, and that's some good friction. That friction is going to go into your metal. It's going to go into your clear coat, and it could end up going into your paint. Again, any debris you have on here now also went into your clear coat and your paint. So what we're going to do is set it to its lowest torque setting. What it'll do is if I put my hand there again, the drill will cut out. So it will spin until I give it enough resistance that overcomes the clutch and it will prevent it from spinning. In practice, I believe I was using a number 5, and all I did, you just want to be close enough to the window, not pushing very hard at all. And if I push too hard, the clutch will kick in and it will disengage the rotation of the drill bit. This will become more of an issue when you have the wax on here, which I do not. I ended up cleaning this 7 days later. So you're going to want to be very light on the trigger. You're going to want to be not pushing hard. You're not trying to polish anything away. You're trying to apply wax. And as you're doing it, you're going to want to be doing either a W shape or a rotational shape of the drill itself so that you have both the rotation of the pad in addition to not risking burring into the material. So kind of like if you're painting a wall in your house, it's going to be a W shape. I went a little bit like this. Just random shapes if you want to. You could do a rotational circular shape with the drill as that pad is working it. And you can see I would have done that whole window in about 20 seconds. Now you'll notice I say that whole window. The next tip is start with your windows. The windows have 100% reflection, right? Versus your paint. They're also relatively flat. So while you're applying, you're going to get a better idea of what that resistance feels like, what that friction feels like. You're going to be able to see where you did and didn't hit. You're going to be able to tell at what speed you need to be doing this, and you're going to be able to better tell how much wax you need to apply. I started with 3 dollops here and 1 in the middle. I did my first couple of coats, and then you're going to feel a little bit of resistance change. It's going to get a little bit slicker because there's less material to act as a adhesive, to act as a gummy kind of material in between the surface and your pad. So you're going to start feeling a little bit of resistance. It's going to be a little bit slicker and easier to slide around. Just go ahead and add 1 or 2 more dollops of whatever wax you're using. The next thing is you can also tell by doing it on your window when the wax is dried. You want the wax to dry so that you can buff it off, but you don't want the wax to hard coat, because now you are going to have to start polishing off, you know, pseudo concrete in order to get that wax off. So if you start with your windows, you're going to be able to figure out a lot of things without risking doing damage to your paint. Now, speaking of risking, you'll notice I said do the window, but I didn't say do your windshield. Start on one of your rear windows that you're less likely to be looking out of, especially at night, like a windshield. If you picked up a bug or a piece of rock or debris or something, as I said, as this rotates, you're going to be polishing those materials, I guess, those issues into your paint, or more appropriately into your glass. And now you're going to be creating a star pattern, and you're going to start etching the glass. That's not what you want. So by starting with your rear window, you can make sure that all of your settings are correct. You can get a better idea of the technique, and you can go ahead and do it on a relatively low risk window versus one of your premium windows, right? Your windshield, your 2 driver's side windows, your rear window, stuff like that you actually need to be looking through. I'm pretty sure the driver cannot rotate their head enough to look through this window. So it's the best place to start. It's the safest place to start. All of this could be avoided by doing it by hand. Again, I waited a little longer into the year when we don't have that giant fireball in the sky. So you could go and get a random orbital waxer, and it's essentially doing what I told you. The pad will spin and it will just do random movements, and you would move it around like this, but underneath, inside, it would just be doing random orbitals. It would be doing random movements. That would be the safest, and by that I mean the lowest risk way of doing it. And then you do have this option as well, which between my wife's car and my car worked out very well. And now I'm going to roll in how the water has beaded off the car just this very morning. And that's about it. It took less than an hour probably, washing twice, rinsing twice, waxing once, and buffing the wax out. So protect your investment, guys. Find the time, go ahead and clean it up, polish it up, and get it ready for winter so you don't have to worry about it once the snow starts falling. This is Outside the Target Demographic. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Any questions, comments, concerns you have, as always, leave them in the comments section below, and I will catch you guys in the next video.